Blue Origin New Glenn on the launch pad, Starbase update, news about Starship Flight 7, NSF interview of PLD Space CEO Raúl Torres. Launches of the week. I'm Christophe Paget from All About Space, and this is your Space Update. Blue Origin has now rolled out its New Glenn rocket to the launch pad at Cape Canaveral Launch Complex 36 ahead of a maiden flight expected this December. This transporter erector, or TE, is seen carrying this massive rocket to the pad and pivoting from horizontal to vertical position. The TE was seen going vertical and horizontal a few times. This is all we have this week on New Glenn. At Starbase launch site, the cable spool was installed on the drawworks of the Mekazila Tower No. 2. Work continued on the tower's chopsticks. The metal base of the launch mount No. 2 is nearly stacked up and ready to get its various fittings, pipes, and cables. More pipes were added underground. The tower No. 1 and its launch mount were also being refurbished and repaired. At the production site, the last section of booster number 16 entered the mega bay for completing the structural assembly, and the office building expansion is progressing. Thanks to our colleagues from NSF, we now know that NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston has applied to the FAA an urgent request to use their Flying Lab Gulfstream 5 aircraft in international airspace without the use of usual safety lighting, which aids identification from nearby aircraft. But the reason for that is such lighting would impede NASA from taking thermal imaging of the Starship flight test number 7, the next flight to take off from Boca Chica with the booster number 14, with a catch attempt back to base, and the Starship number 33 going across the globe to soft land on water in the Indian Ocean. SpaceX is subcontracting NASA assets to measure the peak heating on the Starship belly during atmospheric re-entry to experimentally verify the thermal protection. The interesting thing is that the request from NASA is to fly near Australia on the 11th of January 2025, a good indication of when SpaceX would like to launch its flight test number 7. Continuing with documentation, SpaceX has requested an update of its environmental assessment submitted to the FAA and out for comments. The request is for increasing the flight cadence from 5 a year to 25 from Boca Chica. At the speed SpaceX is going, they definitely need a flight cadence increase. Alejandro Alcantarilla Romera from NSF has interviewed Raúl Torres, CEO of PLD Space, an ambitious startup rocket company. I've mentioned what PLD has been up to in the past month, and this interview has provided few more details which I will summarize in this episode. I invite you to watch this interview in its entirety. The link is given in the description. Raúl has explained that PLD Space was founded in 2011, where Ariane Group and Avio were the only European rocket companies. They started the company with no money, and 13 years later, they have 300 employees, several millions in the bank, working on a rocket technology enabler, the MIURA-1, which successfully flew a year ago, setting the company to a strong footing for its MIURA-5 and beyond. MIURA is Spanish for large fighting bulls, anticipating to design and build massive rockets such as MIURA-5 rockets, expected to be ready in 1 year from now, according to Raúl. The biggest challenge they faced was moving from pressure-fed engine of MIURA-1 to turbopump engines on MIURA-5. Luckily, lots of designs and manufacturing processes were similar on both rockets. They have added more composite and had to work on stage separation mechanism, which MIURA-1 did not have. Raúl also mentioned that 95% of the MIURA-5 design is now complete and are currently running lots of tests and qualification of parts. MIURA-1 was designed to get data from MIURA-5 to validate the design and manufacturing processes. One particular learning from MIURA-1 was on temperature and pressure distribution over the vehicle, along with aerobraking performances using the skin and flaps to reduce the vehicle speed. All that in order to correlate their design models for the next MIURA rockets. In June next year, PLD will start building the launch pad at the European spaceport in French Guiana. Although MIURA-1 maiden flight was successful, which is rare for rocket companies to do, but Raúl was still aware that succeeding MIURA-5 maiden flight is still a very hard thing to do. By 2028, PLD expects to have mastered the first stage landing back to site, and PLD is also aiming to launch up to 30 rockets per year by 2030. Raúl explained that his future customers are going for bigger and heavier satellites, therefore PLD reacted with a suite of launchers based on an even bigger rocket than MIURA-5 called MIURA Next or MIURA Next Heavy with 2 reusable side boosters or MIURA Next Super Heavy with 4 reusable side boosters. The closing and interesting remarks from Raúl is that Europe is not pushing for bigger launches, and this is why PLD Space intends to be the leader in such capabilities. November 24th, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 for a Starlink mission Group 913 from California. The first stage flew for his 15th time and landed on a drone ship. On the same day, Rocket Lab launched an Electron from Virginia for his HASTE mission Leidos 2. The last launch that day was that of CASC for his Long March 2C rocket from China for his mission SuperView NEO 203 and 204. November 25th, Rocket Lab launched another Electron from New Zealand for his mission Ice Ice Baby. On the same day, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 for a Starlink mission Group 1201 from Florida. The first stage flew for its 13th time and landed on a drone ship. Incidentally, SpaceX mentioned that this booster was used only 13 days prior, which is a record for SpaceX. November 27th, Landspace launched a Zhuke 2E rocket from China for his maiden flight. On the same day, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 for a Starlink mission Group 676 from Florida. The first stage flew for its 15th time and landed on a drone ship. In summary, from January 1st until November 28, 2024, 229 rockets were launched successfully. Out of that, 143 were from an American company or institution, 57 from China, and 14 from Russia. I leave you this week with this somewhat simple image from the James Webb Space Telescope of the Sombrero Galaxy, also known as M104. This galaxy is actually rather bright, which would hide many features due to its intensity. However, using JWST mid-infrared camera, the picture is dimmer but reveals more characteristics such as a smooth inner disk as well as details of how the clumpy gas in the outer ring is distributed. Dust is one of the universe's essential building blocks and often where star formations is found in galaxies. Although this specific galaxy is not a particular hotbed of star formation, it does contain lots of stars for scientists to study. I'm Christophe Paget for All About Space. See you at the next episode of Space News.